Summary of the Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. Edmond Dantes is 19 years old and has a lot going for him. In 1814, when the ship Fernan docks in Marseille, he is the first mate. M. Morel, who owns and runs the ship and is therefore Dantes' boss and advisor, makes Dantes captain. This upsets Danglars, who is in charge of the ship's cargo. Cataris, a tailor who lives next door to Dantes' father, is also jealous of the rays. Fernan, a fisherman in the Catalan part of the city, is also jealous that Dantes is engaged to Fernan's cousin Mercedes, a beautiful young woman. By chance, these three men end up in the same place at the same time. At Danglars' request, they come up with a plan to frame Dantes as a supporter of Napoleon Bonaparte, who was removed as Emperor of France. Dantes is caught for treason while at the party where he and Mercedes are getting married. M. de Villefort, who is the deputy crown prosecutor, at first feels sorry for the young man. However, when he finds out that Dantes brought a message from Napoleon to Villefort's own father, Noirtier, who is a Bonapartist, Villefort decides to let Dantes be framed for Bonapartist allegiances so that Noirtier's support for Bonapartism doesn't get out. Dantes doesn't know what he did wrong, so he ends up in the feared Château d'If, a jail in the Mediterranean, where he suffers for 14 years in almost complete silence. In jail, Dantes is angry at first, then sad and quiet. After being locked up alone in a dirty dungeon for many years, he finally chooses to kill himself by not eating. But at this very important time, Dantes hears something scraping against the other side of his jail wall. Dantes meets the Abbé Faria after digging hard in the direction of the sound and seeing that his neighbor and fellow prisoner has also been digging. The Abbé, a very smart and kind man, teaches Dantes everything he knows, from science and philosophy to languages and the history of the world. After planning for over a year, the two men try to escape from Château d'If, but they fail because the jail guards have strengthened a weak spot where they could have gotten out. When the Abbé has a stroke and dies, the guards wrap Dantes in the old man's death sheet and throw him into the Mediterranean. He runs away and swims to freedom, first joining a group of sailors and then making his way to the island of Monte Cristo, where, according to Abbé Faria, Italian nobles hid a huge fortune in the 1600s. Dantes finds this fortune and starts spending it with one goal in mind: to get back at the four men, Villefort, Danglars, Fernan, and Cataris, who put him in prison in the first place. He does this by being clever and remembering the directions the Abbé gave him. Dantes is also very worried about what happened to his father and Mercedes. But Dantes' feelings of love and loyalty fade when he thinks about how he will get even with the people who have hurt him. Soon after he finds the Monte Cristo fortune, Dantes finds out that three of these four men have had a lot of good luck since the Royalists brought back the French throne in 1815. Danglars is now a rich banker in Paris. He is married to Hermine Danglars, who is having an affair with the much younger diplomat Lucien Debray. Fernan got rich by working as a hired soldier in the wars after 1815. He then married Mercedes, bought a noble title, Count, and had a son named Albert, whom Dantes first met in Rome. Villefort is now the crown prosecutor in Paris, and he's married for the second time. His first wife died, so he had to move on. He has two kids, Valentine, from his first marriage, and Edouard, from his second marriage to Madame de Villefort. Cataris runs a rundown inn with his bad-tempered wife, La Carconte. Dantes, on the other hand, wears many masks, such as the Count of Monte Cristo, an explorer and star with a lot of money, knowledge, and power who is not sure where he came from, the Abbé Busoni, who is thought to be an Italian priest, and Lord Wilmore, who is thought to be an English banker. The Count uses these disguises to learn more about the people whose lives he wants to ruin so he can hurt them. Before going to Paris, the Abbé Busoni, who is really Dantes, meets Cataris and La Carconte at their inn. Busoni asks Cataris how much he knew about Dantes' false imprisonment. When Busoni/Dantes finds out that Cataris wasn't the main person behind the plan, he forgives the innkeeper and gives him and his wife a diamond. When Busoni leaves, La Carconte talks Cataris into coming up with another plan to kill the jeweler to whom they just sold the diamond. Cataris goes on the run after this botched and bloody event, which leads to the deaths of La Carconte and the jeweler. He ends up in a prison cell when he can no longer avoid being charged with killing 2 people. In the second part of the book, the Count arrives in Paris, makes his way into French high society, and carefully puts together plans to get back at those who betrayed him. Among the many things he does there, the Count hires a Corsican man named Bertuccio. Bertuccio saw Villefort and Hermine Danglars having an affair. Benedetto, the child of the affair, is later taken in by Bertuccio. Bertuccio was actually hiding in Cataris when the jeweler was killed, and he tells Dantes about it. Benedetto is sent to the same jail colony as Cataris. When Cataris finds out that the Count helped him make up an identity as Andrea Cavalcanti, an Italian nobleman, he blackmails Benedetto in Paris. The Count moves into a house on the Champs-Élysées with a slave named Ollie and a slave named Haydée, both of whom he bought in Constantinople. The Count of Monte Cristo uses telegrams and the stock market to ruin Danglars' bank. He slowly meets Albert and his mother, Mercedes. Albert becomes his friend, and Mercedes, even though she recognizes her former fiancé right away, pretends for most of the book that she doesn't know who the Count of Monte Cristo really is. Soon, the Count figures out that Madame de Villefort is poisoning family members so that Valentine's wealth from her grandparents, the Saint Marins, and her grandfather, Noirtier, will go to her son instead. These plots, along with many fancy and fun balls, theatrical and operatic performances, duels and fights, and talks about love, philosophy, religion, devotion, revenge, money, and family, lead to a series of climaxes and then to a resolution in the last chapters of the book. The Count lets Benedetto kill Cataris because he thinks Cataris has had many chances to make up for his early sins of fear and drunkenness and his later sins of murder. The Count also drains Danglars' bank account by cleverly manipulating the financial markets. After getting Eugenie to get engaged to Andrea, he then watches as Andrea's social fall brings more shame to Andrea's family. The Count refuses to fight Albert in a duel because he has heard rumors about Fernan's wrongdoings. Albert then finds out that his father stole his wealth from the Ali Pasha in the Middle East and that he is not an aristocrat at all, but the son of a dishonest, untrustworthy, and cowardly fisherman from a poor family. When these things come out, Fernan kills himself, and Albert decides to join the French army abroad. His mother, Mercedes, makes peace with the Count after pleading with him to keep Albert and other people in Paris safe from more revenge. She says that she will be sad and live alone in Marseille. In the next part of his adventures, the Count saves Valentine from the home of the Villeforts, but not before he tells everyone that Villefort had a child with Hermine outside of marriage, which ruined his reputation as a crown prosecutor. At the same time, the Count is at the end of his rage at this point. Because he wants to punish Villefort, he lets Villefort's second wife kill the Saint Marins, Valentine, and, in the end, an innocent child named Edouard. After these sad events and his late-night talk with Mercedes, the Count realizes that there must be more to his freedom than revenge. Soon after, the Count realizes that he needs to find love and try to build a new network of family and friends to replace the ones he has lost during his 14 years in the Château d'If. Luckily, the Count has always had a good relationship with Maximilien Morel, son of old Morel. He was the first person outside of the Count's family to believe in him as a sailor. The Count saved the Morel family from going bankrupt a few months after he got rich. When the Count finds out that young Morel wants to marry Valentine, he does everything he can to protect her from her aunt and get her away so that Morel and Valentine can live together. The book ends with the Count on the island of Monte Cristo, having left Paris behind. He has kept Valentine and Morel safe from the social upheaval he has caused in Paris, and he has left them almost all of his huge fortune, which is basically unlimited in size. After seeing Marseilles, where he spent much of his childhood, and the prison of the Château d'If, where his childhood was almost ruined, the Count says goodbye to Albert and Mercedes, whom he thinks of as innocent bystanders in a sad story. He also realizes that he loves Haydée, whom he has grown to love during their time together in the house on the Champs-Élysées, and with whom he can now imagine spending the rest of his life. The Count no longer wants revenge. Instead, he loves and feels grateful to those who are close to him. Dantes and Haiti sail away from Valentine and Maximilian, whom they had taken in his family, and the Count tells them that if they hope and wait, one day they might all be back together.
About the author. Alexandre Dumas was born to a military family in Villers-Cotterets, France. His father was the illegitimate child of a French marquis and a Haitian slave. He worked his way up in the French army to become a general, which at the time was the highest rank a black man could reach in a European army. During his military career, Dumas's father took on the last name of his Haitian mother, Dumas. He died when Dumas was a toddler, leaving his family to struggle. Even though Dumas didn't go to college, his mother thought education was important and worked hard to make sure he went to high school. When he was young, Dumas worked as a notary and a writer, but he loved writing more than anything else. In 1829, his play Henry III and his court made him well known in France. The Tower of Nesle, 1832, and Keene, 1836, were also successful plays that he wrote. Dumas started out his writing career by writing plays, but he also wrote essays, short stories, travelogues, and books, which are what he is best known for. The Count of Monte Cristo and the Three Musketeers, two of his most famous books, are about love, adventure, revenge, and strange places. Dumas's impact isn't just his writing. His son, Alexandre Dumas Fils, or Jr., was also a prolific writer, and Dumas had at least one other child outside of marriage because he was known for having many affairs.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.